In this video, we're going to be looking at how to knit the Vikkel braid or Estonian lateral braid. It is a lovely little braid made from one row of knitting that can be done usually in one color, but can also be done in two contrasting colors. This is a braid that gives the appearance of stitches running horizontally, like seen here in my Caloroso shawl, and this cute little swatch here, which is what I'm going to show you how to knit. It's a really lovely technique to add to your knitting toolbox. We're going to be looking at how to knit this braid flat on this little swatch with one color. So let's get started knitting. So now we're going to get started knitting our Vikkel Braid or Estonian Lateral Braid English throwing style. So I'm just going to work my braid on this nice flat swatch in where I've got this bit of stockinette. So I've just worked these kind of edge stitches and I'm ready to get started. This is a simple 2-stitch repeat for this braid. So what we're going to do to get started is I'm going to tilt my needles up so you've got a good view, is I'm going to knit through the back loop of the second stitch on my left needle, so this one right here. So I'm going to take my right needle, come into the back, insert it there, wrap my yarn around, and pull that through. So now what I've got is a stitch on my right needle that I made from the second stitch on the left needle, knitting through the back loop. Now I'm going to go through what is the first stitch on my left needle and knit it just like a normal knit stitch. Like so. So now once I've worked the first 2 stitches on my left needle, I can slide them off like so. What you should see on your right needle will look like a 1x1 left knit twist, so a twisted stitch or a Vikkel stitch. So that is the start of our repeat. What the last kind of step to this repeat is what we're going to do is slide what is the first stitch on my right needle, so this one here, the last one we just knit or made, back to my left needle. So I'm just going to slide it across like so, purlwise, and I'm going to just repeat what we just did. So now I'm going to take right needle, I'm going to go into the second stitch on the left needle through the back, wrap my yarn around to knit through the back loop, and then I'm going to knit the first stitch on the left needle like a normal knit stitch and pull through, slide those 2 stitches off, and then the most important step of this repeat is slide that first stitch on the right needle back to the left. Once you've done at least 2 repeats of that, you should start to see that your stitches look like they're going horizontally. As we do this repeat, every time we pass that stitch back to the left needle from the right, we're basically going to be working most of our stitches except that very first one at the very start of our braid. They're getting worked twice, so they're being knitted twice to make that horizontal look. So let's go through that repeat again. So I'm going to take my needle, right needle, go through the back loop of the second stitch on my left needle, wrap my yarn around to knit through the back loop, so pull it through that loop. Then I'm going to knit the first stitch on my left needle like a regular knit stitch, pull through. Once those 2 stitches have been worked on the left needle, slide them off, and then slip the first stitch on the right needle back to the left. So you'll carry on doing essentially that 2-stitch repeat. So knitting the second stitch on the left needle through the back loop, knitting the first stitch on the left needle like a normal knit stitch, and then passing what is the last stitch you worked or the first stitch on the right needle back to the left and carrying on, and you'll do that until you finish where you want your braid to be. And it's as simple as that, a braid in one row of knitting. So here I've knitted a little bit past the braid just to show you what has happened in regards to tension. So I'll just grab a cable needle to show you up close. You'll see that my stitches from the braid, that V is a little bit longer than the ones above. So my tension is going to be looser on those stitches. So when you're knitting this braid, you want to make sure you're pulling your stitches, those loops you're making, really tight, or go down a needle size. That will kind of help alleviate that kind of loose tension. So here, if I stretch it out, you can kind of see that's the only downside to this braid, but you can kind of fix that by adjusting your needle size. So go down 1 or 2 to kind of help with tightening up that tension. Otherwise, a really beautiful, sweet little braid that we've just done in one color.